Welcome everyone to the 12:15 second talk for this set of slots. The title is possibly the longest one in our catalog this year, Streamlining HPC Operations, Integrating Django Helpdesk in Resource-Constrained Environments by Binjamin Barsch, who is the lead software engineer at the Center for High Performance Computing, who are one of our exhibitors this year, to which we thank them very much. Binjamin has engineering degrees from Stellenbosch and UCT and has worked in the fields of electronic engineering, data science, and software engineering. His current role at the CHPC focuses on the design and development of software systems and infrastructure. He also manages the DevOps processes and automated deployment, and in addition to his technical roles, he actively contributes to training initiatives such as teaching data science and robotics. Presumably at some point you also sleep. There's a little bit more intro from Binjamin. As he points out, in his spare time he tries to automate everything in his home, prevent his son from kitchen experiments, and stop his rabbits from escaping their pen, which presumably is not connected to the kitchen experiments. Yeah. Thank you, Binjamin.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for joining. Yeah, so this title is a lot longer than I actually would have wanted to do, but hopefully we'll get through it. But Streamlining HPC Operations, Integrating Django Helpdesk in Resource-Constrained Environments. So a bit about myself. As Kim mentioned, did my undergrad Stellenbosch University, did a bit of physics and chemistry, then eventually moved into mechatronic engineering. Enjoyed Stellenbosch so much, stayed there. 2012, worked at a company called FlightScope. There for like almost 8 years. I was in the R&D team doing signal processing, electronic engineering, and software engineering. In that time, I did my master's part-time as well in radar and digital signal processing. And then, I decided, this is time of COVID as well. I really liked Python. I was doing mostly C and C++, and I thought, let me look for a shift in my career. So I found an opportunity at the CHPC. And I had no clue what CHPC was, or HPC, or supercomputing. So this was quite a jump for me, but I really enjoyed it for the past 4 years. Again, I'm the lead software engineer there. I do some DevOps and infrastructure development. On like a day-to-day basis, Bash, Python, Django, Postgres. I work on a day-to-day basis, and I really enjoyed training and teaching. So we do workshops continuously at the CHPC. In data science and robotics. So in today's talk, it's more of just a story that I'm going to tell you past a few months, a little project that I've worked on. So again, this is a very long title. I wish I didn't have such a long title, but we're going to cover a few things, which is like what is the CHPC? We're going to look at one of the projects of the CHPC, which is the HPC Ecosystems Project. And then the virtual lab and OpenHPC. I know I'm mentioning HPC a lot. I mean, if you think of HPC, just think about supercomputing. That's something I had to learn as well. But we'll get to that. Then the fun stuff is the Python stuff. That's we'll get to that as well. We're going to look at Python web framework, specifically Django and a Django Helpdesk. And how this is all apply. It's for SADC and SKA partner sites, but we'll get to that. So I have to plug in the company I work for, or the organization, CHPC. So what is it? So it's a national supercomputing facility. We have the fastest supercomputer in South Africa. It was the fastest as of last year, but Morocco's beat us by a few petaflops. Next year we will get a 4 petaflop system, so we will be the fastest in Africa again. And we also have an OpenStack cloud. So if you use AWS and Azure and GCP, we actually provide those services for free for research communities and academic institutions. So all the universities in South Africa actually use the CHPC for their research for free. And yeah, so we've had over 1 billion core hours used for the past 7 years, and Python is the most used languages by our researchers and supporting staff. So you can check out our website if you want to apply to use our resources for free. So it's compute and cloud resources. You can apply that on our website. So back to the topic. What is the HPC Ecosystems Project? So this began in 2013, and it was there to support SADC and SKA partner countries to engage and develop African HPC and community. And the primary purpose is to take these fancy data centers or supercomputers in America, Europe, and elsewhere, decommission them and bring them to Africa and actually install them as HPC data center. Part of the project is also to provide the technical training. We have the hardware, it's working, but we also need the staff to actually support it. So there's also training that's involved, and this is where my topic kind of begins. We have something called the OpenHPC virtual labs, which started during COVID. How do we train staff in HPC during COVID? And this is where our kind of talk begins. And the other HPC solutions as well that they do as well. So again, just to kind of recap, and this is like all the sites that have been deployed in Africa that have decommissioned tier 1 data centers that have been now used in Africa. So where does the Django stuff come in? We are here for Python related content. As a hacker HPC person, having no experience in HPC, I decided to take one of the workshops that my colleague Brian, who leads this project, they do it a few times a year, just to train people, sysadmins in HPC, how to operate a HPC cluster. And I decided to take that workshop, which is done online, a few months ago. And I went through the workshop, which was quite nice, and I've obviously it's a very nice guide to follow to how to build your own little cluster on your own machine. And where this comes from is a resource called OpenHPC. But how this workshop is a bit different is in resource-constrained environments like in the African continent, we might not have internet access or access to an actual cluster. So the idea was to build your own cluster on your own laptop. That's the idea, and to learn how to manage and work with a cluster or HPC environment on your own laptop. And that's the idea behind this workshop. So again, this just specifies the various details of the workshop. But again, just to highlight the bottom portion of the slide is the official recipe for OpenHPC assumes access to physical hardware to facilitate the OpenHPC deployment. This virtual lab, this is a workshop that's done, which is pioneered by this project, is a guide to expand the access to OpenHPC to everyone, to deploy OpenHPC in a virtual environment hosted on your own local machine. So you can run your own HPC virtual cluster on your own laptop. So this is the pioneering project behind it. So I did this workshop and it's all done. And one of the key things which is quite useful is at the end of this project, you install all these libraries and develop your OS and everything, and all the HPC related tools that you need. And at the end, you have this, you can package your whole HPC cluster in a Vagrant box file. And with that, you can actually install it on another laptop and another system. And in principle, you can actually deploy it on physical hardware, which is very cool because you can actually you can scale a cluster quite easily using this method. So what did I do as an expert, so-called in HPC? The best way to learn anything is to teach it. So I actually created a little training session online to actually teach people not to build a cluster, but actually how to use it. Because one of the training aspects that I do is for data science. How do you access how do you use an HPC cluster? How do you log in? How do you submit a job and run your simulation? So I thought, okay, why not teach people how to, build their own little cluster on their machine and submit the job on there. That was the idea behind it. So I developed a little, workshop related to that, and then, this is what pretty much you can go to this GitHub URL and you can find it. And what is a virtual cluster composed of? It's just three. You have your login node, or your head node, and two compute nodes that you can use. And this symbolizes a very simple HPC or environment or data center. And this just, again, is a teaching mechanism to help people understand how it works and how to maybe run a simple job to parallelize their simulation. And again, the steps are pretty straightforward. It takes a few minutes to build your own virtual cluster on your own local machine. So install VirtualBox, install Vagrant, install Git Bash. People were using Windows. There's some other instructions as well. Most important thing is step 8, which is the prepackaged Vagrant box that has a complete virtual cluster in a over 7 gigabyte file that you can actually run your own virtual cluster on your local machine. And it's using Slurm. If you know about HPC, it's one of the package managers for HPC. And you can submit a job, and you can see how the job is it runs on a cluster. Obviously, you can't really expect too much results compared to an actual data center. But I mean, in principle, you'll learn the concepts. So again, if you want to access the in your terminal, you would just start your go to your terminal, and you'll start your the whole virtual cluster just by saying Vagrant up SMS host. It'll build everything, and then in VirtualBox you'll see you have 3 virtual machines, and that's your virtual cluster in a nutshell. And you can SSH to it as well. You can SSH to SMS host, go to root, and you can go to sinfo, which is used to display the information about the nodes in a Slurm managed cluster. And then ultimately, what you want to see is the last portion at the end, which just tells you that our virtual cluster is ready to use. We have 2 nodes that are expecting jobs, waiting for jobs to run. So that's it. I mean, it takes like 5 minutes to build your own virtual cluster. Okay, so now what, right? Our cluster backend is working. We have virtual cluster, but as a software engineer, I work a lot in front ends as well. No, I can't, like working Bash, working terminal is fine, but I want to see something in my browser as well. So I thought about, okay, well, why didn't we add something else? I add maybe a front end. So this is where the Django part comes into it. So we had the discussion, and we thought like it would be useful to streamline the support, right? Because the idea is in a certain region where there's limited resources, limited internet, users might have to go to the actual site to actually access it. We would need some kind of front end to maybe allow the people to log in and to register and somehow manage tickets if there's problems submitting a job or whatnot. User registration, job notifications as well. How do we do that with using a front end instead of only expecting them to use a terminal? So this was the idea behind using Django Helpdesk. So there are other front ends that are quite common with HPC environments like Open On Demand, but that's still a work in progress, and that doesn't have like a ticketing environment. So what did we decide on? Well, we decided on Django Helpdesk. And why? Because built on Python as Django, so of course, why not? Also, there's and Django, if you don't know, it's a Python web framework. Out of the box, gives you everything you need. You can pip install it. You can use Docker. There are like WordPress alternatives as well. There are also sites called Django Builder, which allows you to configure your Django environment from a template as well. And again, building on that, Django Helpdesk is also out of the box. It's a ticketing system. It's a mature project, been around for many years, an active community, and I've been using it and maintaining it for the past 4 years at the CHPC. So I'm very familiar with it. So I thought I'll just trying it out on a virtual cluster and see how it would work. So again, this is a proof of concept to see how it can work, and obviously we can explore alternatives, but we are quite familiar with Django Helpdesk, so why not? So just some features of the Django Helpdesk. So like with any ticketing system, I mean, there are so many there. I mean, you're probably familiar with Zendesk or Freshdesk or Jira. I mean, there are quite a lot, but obviously this is open source and hosted locally. But generally, what are the features of a help desk or ticketing system? Tickets can be opened via email, multiple queues. It's an integrated FAQ, has an API. Staff has access to your dashboard for unassigned tickets. You can search and filter tickets, review and assign tickets, follow up and respond to tickets. You can do CRUD as well to the REST API. So everything you would kind of expect from a ticketing system, and Django gives that for us quite nicely. And again, it's a mature project. It's been around for many years. And in terms of the integration, a bit of planning obviously had to be, thought out. Like, where do we install it? I mean, first off, we would just install it on the head node. Allows for centralized management of support and tickets for users and requests. Using Docker to run it to help manage resources more efficiently and improve security by isolating the application from the host. And it's also useful while install it actually on the head node. We have direct access to the cluster management tools for logs and everything else. But the key consideration is a local isolated cluster, a cluster that might not have access to the internet or resources, even power, and people would have to go to the physical site and access it. So it's fairly isolated cluster environment. Obviously, there are possible considerations, maybe using load balancing with Nginx or using a dedicated node for Nginx as well. Sorry, for the help desk are options. But ultimately, we decided on just installing it on the head node itself. So how do you do it? How do you set it up? Pretty straightforward. There's the GitHub link. We first tried just with the, you can just try it out with building the demo desk. So you just clone the URL and you run the 2 Docker commands, and on your local host in your browser, you can easily see your Django helpdesk environment start up. So again, I'll just show you a bit of a setup of how I did this on the head node, a bit of setup, but ultimately it's just a Docker run of that environment, and then you'll get your Django helpdesk set up on your virtual cluster, and you can see this on your browser. So using the demo desk environment is quite easy, and it's quite nice to actually see your virtual cluster or have an environment which can interact with your virtual cluster as well. So that's just to try it out as a demo environment, but obviously we want to for standalone approach as well, there's a bit more you have to go into depth, which is what I'll focus on now. So for the standalone installation, which is what we're more interested in, we have more configuration, in mind. There's a few more steps that you have to do. So again, still cloning the repo, and then there's an installation script and starting the Docker Compose services that would get everything up and running. And just checking Docker PS to check that everything is running. Creating an admin user. This if you're used to Django, this is something you'd probably be familiar with. But you have to create a super user. There's probably ways to automate the step, but we're just using the instructions we got on the Django on the GitHub website or in the URL to actually get everything up and running. So this step is just to create an admin user to start to configure things, for your own situation. And again, you can navigate to the admin URL if you want to do that. So following those steps actually doesn't work. There's some issues which or things you have to first set up. There's some problems with the Docker in file. You have to fill in some Postgres details. There's a Docker Compose, some of the library or some of the also some Postgres issues you have to fix on Docker Compose, and there's actually manual migrations you have to do for the helpdesk queue. So things didn't work out, or things don't work out just by following the steps. There's a bit of adjustments for the configuration files you have to do initially. But I mean, ultimately, once it's working, this is the standalone, environment of your of your Django Helpdesk, and it has again all the features you have that you'd want in a ticketing system. This is a staff, view of that dashboard of a few tickets that might have come in. These are just test tickets, like somebody can't log in, or they need to reset the password, which is quite common. And they have other views as well. You can see on the side of the screen. So again, this environment is quite nice. Again, this is attached to your virtual cluster's head node, and it runs on the head node as an environment where you can again log tickets. You can also add obviously your FAQ section if you have people struggling to submit a job or anything like that. You can add that as part of your knowledge database, because in most cases when people try to log into a cluster, they're kind of confronted with the terminal, and having a kind of a UI is kind of makes that barrier to entry a bit easier. So yeah, that's kind of generally how it was. Well, this is the steps followed to kind of get this up and running. And again, each environment or each site might have different configurations for that. Now, those configurations I'll go through now. So again, when you're looking at production use, there's some further steps that need to be followed. They have a cache file that as well to replace your local host URL with a desired one. Modify the Docker Compose file to adjust paths. Custom configurations as well for your settings.py file as well, and customizing your logo as well for helpdesk. These are all small little things that are important for production use. Also, your SS email configuration. If you're using AWS, you don't have to. You can use your own mail server and mail configuration settings as well. But these are just one of the ones they have in the template to follow. Just to make sure that you can also manage any mail that's coming and going, for tickets. Yeah, I think one thing was just to mention at the bottom, just to update the docker file with the necessary secrets as well. And there's another, part of the production process that's also recommend, which is, S3-based attachment support. Working from previous SS examples, we add the following local settings. So again, you don't have to do this. This is just if you are using AWS services, this is something they do, have as a template to use. So that's part of a pipeline of deploying Django Helpdesk on a virtual cluster. There are many other ways, might be other configurations, or it all depend on the site and environment and how they want to set it up. But I mean, ultimately, it's allowing access to your cluster, or in this case, your virtual cluster, and submitting tickets and allowing people, improving the user support that you have. So again, just to emphasize, the main goal was using a Vagrant. So again, that was one of the initial tools that I mentioned in the workshop. Just installing Vagrant, installing VirtualBox, following a few steps to actually get this up and running. So in principle, this can again deployed on a physical cluster. The previous speaker mentioned bare metal, which is a nice term as well. So a bare metal cluster as well. And again, Django Helpdesk can also be installed by configuring the Vagrant file. So the method that they use is obviously a manual approach that can be automated as well using a Vagrant file or any other method to set up the environment with Docker, or or use a pip package installer as well. So this was a proof of concept to see how everything would work. and it's and to see how we can deploy this in environments that are resource constrained. And even if they're not, I mean, just to have an environment that people or users can submit tickets and whatnot. So there are, further investigations we're looking at to automate the ticket generation for cluster jobs as well. That's something that we're looking at too. Having open on demand as well, but built into our virtual cluster is something we're going to look at as well. But I think that's kind of generally the main goals we wanted to focus on, having a virtual cluster with Django Helpdesk. And then obviously adding more front end is something we plan to look for in the future as well. So my last few comments are just to shout out to the HPC Ecosystems team. I'm not actually part of the ecosystem team, so it's just a project that I've kind of it's something I've been playing around with the past few months. I mean, they've been doing great work the past 10 years or so. I think Sean as well, he's probably more involved, my colleague at the back there, to deploying HPC systems in Africa, and they've got many awards for it as well. They also had a paper that was recently published, 10 years of HPC Ecosystems Project, transforming HPC in Africa for the past decade. So you can have a look at it as well. And just there's a website as well if you want more information about the Ecosystems project. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have for today. Finished a bit early. If you have any questions, I'm here to comment. If there is a software dev internship, if you are interested, you can email me. But yeah, that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Binjamin. I do, while I've got the microphone, have a couple of questions. First question, I'm slightly confused by your statement halfway through the talk that some people don't want to use a terminal and want some kind of front end. I don't understand what you mean by that, but more seriously, in terms of the virtual clusters, from my side, out of curiosity, I see kind of two things you spoke about. Running on your own laptop. I mean, is there a lot of uptake on that? Out of interest, do people actually do that to learn and investigate? Yeah, I've got a lot of experience in providing training tools that no one uses, so I'm basically I'm curious.
I think one of the challenges about that is this training and people becoming more aware of HPC and becoming the tools that are available. But again, it's more of a way to teach, and there's actually been a few workshops that have. I think the workshops run twice a year, and on average, it's about 50 people that have been attending. So I mean, there's a growing community that are using it, and again, it's also a pioneering project from OpenHPC to develop this on build your own virtual cluster. So
also, well, that's
it's growing.
Much bigger number than I was expecting. So
yeah,
awesome, cool. Do we have any questions? Yeah, question at the back there. Furthest possible chair to come to. Yeah.
Hi there. Thanks for the talk. I just had a question. Were there any tickets logged in your help desk against the ticketing system?
All the time.
Those for features or issues about the ticketing system,
Well, it's. I think more people have issues about they can't run their jobs, for example, on the cluster. They don't necessarily have issues with the Django Helpdesk itself. It has gone through many iterations of improvements. It's not as fancy as FetchDesk and Zendesk and whatnot. I mean, the hardware it's locally hosted. But there haven't been any issues with it, in terms of its functionality. I mean, it has all the functionality that, the paid licenses or the paid companies provide.
I have a question. Is this destined for production use on the CHPC cluster? And if so, have you thought of single sign-on with the cluster and the Django Helpdesk?
So single sign-on is a project that is in the pipeline. I'm not still depending when it'll be probably deployed. But this hasn't been deployed for the CHPC cluster because the configuration is a bit different because we're using PBS, and this virtual cluster was designed for Slurm, so there's a configuration that's a bit different. But it's more in mind for other clusters that have been deployed already.
A simple question. Two. The first is, how reliable is the email ticket sort of creation and then continuation? So when you're replying and they changed like a subject field or something, does it continue quite easily? Or I've run into certain issues with certain other help desks where things go missing. And then the second question was, your Vagrant setup, your VirtualBox and all the rest, memory requirements on that demo setup sort of thing. Is it, like what are we talking about?
Well, the idea is that I'll answer the last question first. The memory requirements, CPU requirements are quite low. I mean, the configuration of the virtual cluster is very small. It's just two nodes and a single head node. So,
and during do you have any demo jobs supplied with that would push it or anything like that?
we do have, there's an AMDAL script that we have. Okay. Just to demo it. Yeah, but I mean, in most cases, it'll most likely run quicker on your own machine than on the virtual cluster.
That's what I'm wondering is for single board computing and stuff like that, just to play around to see how things work and what have you. Okay, perfect.
And the cool thing is you see the parallelization of the job. I mean, that's a real thing. When you see that, that's when I guess the light bulb moment happens. And you mentioned about the email.
Just is it reliable? How is the sort of email correspondence? Yeah.
What's Django Helpdesk? I haven't personally seen any issues with changing the subject. You are allowed to alter the subject to make it more applicable.
Okay. So they're using little bits inside the message body.
Correct. Yeah. So I haven't seen any issues.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions for Binjamin? Going. One more online check. No. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Binjamin. That was fascinating.